Alright, I'll break down the best upgrades for each Brawl Stars, and I'll go through each rarity and let you know which upgrades are must-haves, which ones are like typically better, which are situational, map dependent, and which you should just always skip. So for
Let's
Shelly,
do this!
I would highly recommend Clay Pigeons. Dash is pretty much useless. For the star power, I recommend Shell Shock. Band-Aid is kind of situational, in which you just want to live, such as like Solo Showdown, but this is just typically better. Damage and speed is highly recommended. Damage first, probably. Nita. Fofur is usually pretty much better. Bear Paws can kind of catch noobs out of off guard. However, Fofur is just typically better. Speed and damage is recommended, but if you're on Heist, you can run Epic here. And in a similar notion, Bear With Me is typically better, but you can run Hyper Bear on Heist if that's where you're gonna
That's
use it.
gotta hurt!
For Colt, I would recommend Silver Bullet because just how important he is in map manipulation. However, on Heist, Speed Loader again for the I recommend damage and reload just because you have insane damage output and it just makes them so scary. And to tie it together, you have Magnum Special. Slick Boots is nice, but just being able to have higher range and be able to hit your shots is golden. With Bull,
Stay down!
you pretty much always want to run Stomper because it just makes his super actually useful. Tough Guy as well is a must-have. Berserker is just kind of useless. And then damage and speed is recommended. You could also run heal, but I'd probably run damage speed first.
Got wrecked!
Brock again is dependent on if you need map manipulation, which most of the time, like when you're running Brock, you want that. So I'd use Rocket Heal. I personally like Rocket number 4. It just has more value. Because most people aren't going to actually get trapped inside of the super that often. So this is just allows you to heal up as well when you need to recover ammo. That said, epic reload gear and damage just kind of make them crazy on Heist and general utility.
For pain and for glory!
Suplex is pretty much necessary. I personally like Meteor Rush. It's more useful, but sometimes you just need straight up DPS against like other tanks, and then you can run El Fuego. It's more situational. That said, I really like the supercharge gear because Primo Super is just pivotal on him, and then damage always works. If you're on a lot of bushy maps with him, you can play the speed gear.
New customers!
This one is, if you ever think you're going to face aggro, having the syrup mixer is just amazing, and actually allows you to win matchups. But you can pick Herbal Tonic if you're not facing aggro. Damage shields is highly recommended. For star power, this one again is kind of a toss-up. Extra Noxious is often more useful. This one's a bit more situational. If you think you're going to get hit a lot, you're kind of out in the open, you can run it, but Extra Noxious is always has value.
Give me a beat!
Tuning Fork pretty much all the way. It's like a must-have. And then most of the time you want Screeching Solo. Sometimes you'll run niche with Da Capo and like double tanks to I guess it's not niche, but it's like a very specific build, and you just need to be able to heal them. But Screeching Solo just makes them actually a menace and can kill people. I recommend using damage and shield probably. I just have speed because it was a map.
Haha! Beaten by a boxing botanist!
Rosa, Unfriendly Bushes is typically better because you always want to run her when there's already bushes in, and following the bush theme, you need the speed gear and Plant Life as well. And then obviously you're probably going to want to run damage as well, but you can use the health gear if
We can do this!
not necessary. Jesse, Spark, okay. this is heist dependent, but use this on heist, use this everywhere else. Pretty much always use energize. This one's just a noob stopper. Damage, pretty much always. I like to run heal, but again, if you're in heist, just run the power damage. For dynamite, this satchel charge is a must-have. Don't even consider the other one. Demolition is very, very useful and just allows you to one-shot everyone. But if you're facing a ton of aggro, then you can run Dyna Jump. But it's really high skilled, so I would just recommend Demolition. Damage, shields, there's pretty much no question about that one. Last Hurrah is a must-have. Mythic Gear for Thick Head, also a must-have. Shield, must-have. And then you're going to want to run automatic reload if you know what you're doing. If you get hit a lot and you don't know what you're doing, then well-oiled will really ease up on how hard it is to play Tick. If you're going to want to use cheat cartridge, unless you're running heist, which then you run extra credits. Reload damage is very solid. This one is going to be dependent on how you're playing. If you're playing in like 5v5s, you always want to go boosted booster. However, if you need a bit more support for yourself, you're going to go plugged in. So usually you want plugged in, but on occasions you can run the boosted.
Just a regular day in the throne room.
Multi-ball launcher got buffed, so it's kind of crazy. But you can kind of do either if you want to. And then reload damage is pretty much necessary. And I would recommend super bouncy. This one's just kind of a bit more niche. Daryl. Recoiling rotator is typically the best because you can actually get super, and that's how he's good. Speed and damage is good. If there's no bushes on like the maps you're playing, you can run heal. Steel hoops is the much better option. However, if you're on a heist and you're playing against noobs, you can do rolling reload. Penny. Salty Barrel is pretty much a must-have. It just helps shut down like aggro and single shot brawlers. I'd recommend damage and shield unless you know you're gonna get a ton of value out of the epic gear, or like your turret, so you can run that epic gear. This one, honestly, both of them are kind of useless. If you have aggro and are dealing with aggro, you run that one. Otherwise, this one technically does something, but not really. So both of them are useless. You don't really need to get it.
Your best
Carl
is my
Flying
worst.
is kind of a must-have. Protective Pirouette is also significantly better. It makes his super actually useful. I'd recommend damage and healing. Yeah. Jackie.
I'll fix this situation.
Pneumatic booster is an absolute must-have. This one's kind of up to preference. Counter Crush is better for anti-tanks. Hard Hat is better to get closer to more squishy brawlers. And then speed and damage is pretty much a must-have. You wouldn't want to run heal, unfortunately. She's just so good in bushes.
Gotta stay calm.
This could be our last one, and Cookie Popper is like absolutely crazy. You need it. It does just 2,000 extra damage. It's kind of crazy. I like running damage and heal. You could run shield if you feel like you're just getting absolutely obliterated and don't have time to heal up, but otherwise I'd run heal damage. And Spirit Animal is pretty much necessary. Must have. That'll be it for the commons and or rares and
Pirate pony!
super rares.